Hope it's recording. Well, thank you for coming. Today we'll be talking about learning the new things in Drupal.
The last person in the last row, could you hear us?
Can you hear?
Perfect.
Yes? Fine? Thank you. Well, first, let's talk about us. I'm jmolivas. You can find me as jmolivas and GitHub, Twitter, and the other social networks. Symfony, Drupal developer.
My name is Eduardo Garcia, but only my mother called me like that. Everybody use Enzo, and my Twitter handle is ensolutions. You could use that in any social network or coding stuff. And recently we started a new company, and we are called We Know. And our business is to provide consulting in Symfony 2 and 3 and in Drupal 8. And we are working in a couple of products to be released maybe in mid-2016. And today we are going to talk about some stuff you can learn about Drupal 8 by debugging. So taking the output available in their system to try to understand the whole platform. And this is the agenda.
Yeah, the whole idea is trying to track metadata or data from Drupal from the different subsystems like routing, events, plugins, service container. So we'll show you using tools how to do that. And let's first start with the tool that we're talking about. In this case, we're using Drupal Console. It's a new CLI for Drupal. Are you aware of this? You trying that? Yes? No? If not, you will see what this tool is capable. What you can do with this tool. And also, first let's talk about Composer and how to make aware of dependencies in your site. And first, using Drupal Console, you can check your system requirements. You can verify your system will support Drupal 8. There's a check command. So let's think about every time that you see Drupal here, it means we are using Drupal Console, CLI. But in this case, Drupal Console provides a check command. This command tells you if your system it's able to run Drupal, and you will see like warning and error messages here. And where does this data come from? The project uses a YML file that gets copied when you run the init command, and those requirements are based on the Drupal.org requirements. And as you can see here, we are, looking for the PHP required version. It also take a look some required configurations to the tool to run, and it also you can set some recommended dependencies you want to, or recommendations for configuration. Then you have the required extensions, and similar to the configuration, you can preset yours. This file gets copied into your system, so you can customize as much as you want. And then let's talk about Composer. In Drupal, it uses Composer. Composer is a package manager for PHP project. So maybe you want to, while working in your site, you want to know what's installed. So we have this Composer show command. This allows you or listing you all of the packages in your project. So the same way we can list or debug which module we have installed in your site. You can see which packages are loaded in your site, which third-party dependencies your project has. So we have the show command using Composer, and this will give you a list of all those packages in the current version. And if you want to see a full detail of one package, it's easier just passing as an argument name the package name, in this case Gossel. And if you want to confirm you have the latest version of the package, you can use -- latest. We can see here, and you can see if you have the latest version of the package installed in your system. Well, if you want to see if you have the latest version of a whole set of packages in your project, you can use the outdated command. They will list you all of the third-party dependencies with the current version and the latest version, and you can find out if you require to run some Composer updates. And finally, if you want to know, remember that issue with Gossel a couple of months back? There's a problem with Gossel, or maybe you have experienced an issue with a particular library. you can run the Y command, composer Y, you specify a package name, and this will tell you which all the packages are required in the dependency. You don't see this dependency in your composer JSON file, but it means maybe all the package is calling this dependency or bringing this dependency to the system. If you're using the Y command, you will find out which packages are required in a specific library. And just getting back to the Console issue, remember those? It was an issue about security. Then Sensio Labs, it also provides the security checker project. You search for that, just Google it. And this project provides you with a CLI. And that CLI reads your composer log file and you match it against a database, and you can see if there's any package installed in your project that has some issues with any security issues. Now let's talk about site debugging.
Okay. So the idea of this presentation is to show how to use the...
Sorry, real quick, where did you say provided the security check?
Again?
Who provided the security check?
It's Sensio Labs, the company behind Symfony. Just search for it.
So the idea of debugging is to try to learn about the system, because I think Drupal 8 and the web interface is an UI that only tells us part of the story, right? It's a different point of view. But developers, we have a lot of metadata inside our system, but we are not available to reach that. So we create a lot of commands inside the Drupal console to try to allow us to research and dig a little bit inside that. So we will show a little bit how to use them. So first, the basic, this is similar to status report. It's just to get a big picture about what is the status of your system. So the idea is, obviously, you could use this information and output to try to determine the sanity of your system. So this is pretty basic, right? And at the end, you get some information about the database, what is the logbook, and everything. Obviously, you could combine this output with some red to do something else you want to do. But this is too generic, maybe. Obviously, also, configuration management is a big change in Drupal 8. So we provide some commands to try to learn about what is in any specific configuration management. We have a way to read what is this custom settings inside our file, because sometimes we have some specific keys that are only available in production are different for development, and maybe we are having some issue with those specific settings. So in this case, it's an example, like in production, we have a different credentials to connect to Twitter or something. So this command would do is to read your settings.php file and present what is the specific values you have in your site. This is a command to try to provide a small overview of your site. I think this is especially good for front-end developers, because usually when you get a new contract to get a team in your site, the problem is it's really hard to try to determine how small or how big is your site. So with this command, what we're trying to show to the designer or the people who is trying to evaluate the site in any level, so it's a little inventory. So if I am a front-end developer, I could say, okay, how many content types, because that means how many templates I need to implement, if I have comments, or if I have how many views. So obviously this information will be require more and more job. Obviously this command could be extended, but at least, even that this command is not perfect, it's better than that usually clients provide us. Client, they always give us a URL, not even as an administrator, and they say just browse, and then you will figure out how big is their site. So obviously this is a more close approximation about the system.
And I see this command really useful when you are inheriting a site. So, when cloning a site, and then importing the database, so it can give you an overview of what's on that project, so you can, before you start working with it. Yes?
How heavy is that command if you've got a site that has like 10,000 rows in it?
again?
How heavy is that command when you have a site that has like 10,000 nodes in it?
Well, I mean, those commands only run when you execute those. I mean, it's not like impacting in your site. It's just like will be a little slow
Yeah.
depending on the
We use entity query to count, so it's basically it's really quick. So we just traverse the content types and count them, so it's a matter of seconds.
in the end. And again, when you are working with site, sometimes you need to fill your site with data, right? With dummy data. And Drupal 8 provides this functionality out of the box. And Drupal Console is only taking advantage of that. It's basically, you can create nodes, then it's something like this happen. If you say no interaction, or it's not, then if you don't say no interaction, then you will see which content type you want to generate data, how many nodes do you want to generate. In the same way you can generate nodes, you can generate taxonomy, terms, you can generate users and roles and different data across the system. Well, for site maintenance, we have this site mode command. This command allow you, yes?
Just one thing on the create nodes. Can you create, like, for example, I'm using commerce too. Can you create products, for example?
It reads the different content types based on your site installation. It's not like it's fixed. So if you have a content type, it will read it from you and just create it.
What would be the command?
It will create nodes. You will see a list. So if you jump
It
into
is not a node. Voilà. Okay, commerce 2.x. Product is just a custom entity.
Yeah, he's talking about.
Okay, so yeah, we can probably, there's no entity generation at this point. We can figure it out. We can probably use this after session.
Yeah, but it's totally possible because at the end, an entity is a content type. It's a kind of entity. So actually, what we do is the Drupal console is only a UI because the core has functionality to implement sample code. So anytime you want to create a different field type, you need to implement a method to create sample data for your field type. So yeah, it's actually almost copy paste what we do and then send to creation.
So basically, it's supported by the.
It's difficult to do.
Oh yeah, so we have this side mode, again, going back to the side mode command. Sometimes you have a site, you just get it, clone it, or inherit it from somewhere else. Or you might be working in production, then you get the latest version of. Running the side mode command allows you to turn on and off caching, turn on and off, like tweak debugging and turn on and off as well. Going to view so you can see the query that gets executed and a statistic of how long this query takes to get executed. So basically running this command allow you to do something like this, right? Turning on and off the CSS and JS, aggregation. Same for view settings. It also changes it for you, so you can see how what's the SQL statement executed, and views statistics as well. And it also, allows you to turn on and off the level of error logging in your site. So you don't have to do it manually, just run this command. So side mode that, turn this into development. And finally, it also turns on and off tweak debugging. It means if you run this command, then you can go to the source, you can inspect the source of your page, and you will see something like this. All these tweak suggestions will be shown on the source of your code. And you can flip-flop these values by going something like site dep prod, and this will it will return all those configurations back to the original state. And now there's a project called config split you can use, probably, if you want to, and that allows you to configure which configurations you don't want to deploy when running configuration exports commands. It will be a good idea to set all these configurations there. So when next time you export your configuration, if you forgot to run the site mode prod command, those configurations won't get exported.
Okay. Usually, I don't know if it happened to you anytime, we broke our own site and we are not available to see the error log. So the idea is we have a basic command to try to debug the latest errors produced. You could filter a little bit with the limit, or you could sort by the new or by the old. And of course, you could review this. So this is especially useful when you are doing the coding and the site is down. and, but still you have access to the database, so you can review what is the error you have in your system. This is another way to try to learn about the system. We have a command, database table debug, just to try to see how many tables we have in our system. This is especially good for people who is not a really SQL guy friend. And even better, if you want to read a specific structure of your table, this is useful when maybe you implement an update in your site and something is failing. Obviously, the first thing you need to check is if the new fields in your table were created or not. So it's a way to debug. Also, we have a database client to know how to connect directly to the database, or even to connect in there. This is support for MySQL and Postgres.
Yeah, PostgreSQL, yeah.
We don't have support just for SQLite.
Okay, well, related to new subsystems in Drupal, we have the configuration system, right? It's a way to store data so you can export across different environments. And we have this config debug command. This command will list all of the configuration objects, on the configuration system. And if you want to know in detail what's the information in a specific configuration object, you can go config debug and then pass the config object name, and you will see what's contained in that configuration object. You can also go to config override if you want to edit that in your editor like BI or Nano, depending on what you configure on the application. Well, another method of storage in Drupal, it is the state. The easiest way to explain the state is kind of like configuration, but something that you don't want to export to different environments, or something that's meaningful in the current environment you're working with. Let's say the last time you run cron, the last time the user log into the system or something like that. In this case, we have the config debug. The state debug. Same thing as configuration. Lists you all of the state objects, so you can see all of the names. And as you can guess, you pass the state object name, and you will see in full detail information containing on that specific state object.
So services. This is a new thing for Drupal developer, but this is an old frame for Symfony guys. The problem with services is right now in Drupal 8 we have more than 500 services available. And to try to provide an example of a service, when we were coding for Drupal 7 or below, we used the global variables to detect this stuff like a user, right? So now in Drupal 8 that is not possible anymore. You need to use a service to try to access which user is the current user. Therefore, obviously, get this information for intuition is really hard to do. And if as a developer, if we go to the Drupal UI, there is no way to try to learn about that. So we create a command to list these services in the container. And what we get is the IDs, and this is which class implemented. So at least with this information, we can narrow about what we are looking for. So if we are looking for the global user we use in Drupal 7, the service is named current user. So if you are looking something to manage maybe the entities, obviously the container must have entity something. In this case, it's entity manager in Drupal 8. And it's a way to narrow your learning. So you try to determine the idea of the service. You have the class. You could read the code and check what methods are available, and then you determine how you could use that. This is the services I mentioned you. This is information about the service current user. As you said, this is the ID. This is the class, and this is the interface implemented this service. Well, in this case, there are two interfaces, and those are the methods available. As you could see, it's anonymous and authenticated. So you don't need to dig in the code. So you can use the console and do a quick discard or not, and then when you define it, what is you're looking for, you did. So maybe if you are wondering what is a service, some people say it's a kind of API for models. So you could create a model, and if you want to exposure some information or feature, getting what you get in this model, and then you can be using different models, then you create a service to share with other models. How we do that in the past, we make includes of the PHP files that have the function or something like that. I do that a lot of time with Flask or other models in order to try to use this model. Obviously, this is really ugly. With services, it's a little better, not quite better, but obviously that requires a lot of learning about the system.
Yeah, and basically we add those commands. So well, Drupal Console born as a boilerplate tool, right? Generating code, trying to learn Drupal by generating code. But at some point, while generating services, routes, and all these different things in Drupal, we needed to make sure all those, in this case, when generating a service, we needed to make sure and confirm that service was properly registered in the system. So we end up adding those commands. So Drupal Console is no longer Drupal generator only tool. It's a full CLI, and this is where all these commands start. Those commands are where start appearing because there was a need for them to have them available. And actually, this was really based into Symfony, container debug command.
Yeah. So you need to think about the other option you have to do this without the console is try to reach the UI and see, okay, this block they use the user. So now I need to find where the block is created and how this is implemented. So this is reverse engineering, and this is how we learn and did for years and years, but that doesn't mean it's the better way. So there are some ways to try to help us to use a little bit better our time. Routing.
Well, that's fine. Same as we have with the services. While we start generating routes with Drupal Console project, we find out we need to make sure that route was properly registered in the system. So we have the router debug command. It also heavily influenced by the same command with the same name in Symfony framework. It also shows you the route ID on one side, and it shows you the class that it's the path that is responding to that route. And if you pass the route name as an argument, it'll show you if the full metadata to that route. It tells you which class is responding to that route. You can see, a lot of data, all of the data contained in the route definition. And this is, something like you can use for, let's say, there is a form or a controller or a page that you want to see how it's built. You just run this, something like this, and you can figure out where is this class located, so you can start digging into that.
Yeah, so what I say is like usually our clients they are always trying to request some crazy stuff. They always think in ways like I can say this form or this controller, I just want the same, just copy and paste, right? But obviously it's never copy and paste because you cannot copy the controller. So what we do usually is we find a test and try to search in all code to try to determine what function do that. So this is crazy. But if the next time your client do the same, you just need to say, okay, give me the URL, and then you just go to the book, try to narrow what is the ID, get the class, and now copy and paste as the client thing. But then you are copying the full implementation, or obviously change the name, and then you are doing almost a physical that. So with this is using the proper tool, you need to eliminate the process of do reverse engineering and try to be more close to what the client thinks, which is copy and paste.
Does Console have a fairly good help system or a command system? Just so you have to memorize what all these commands are?
No, there's help command. I'll give you a list and data. There is, the documentation, but like built in, there is not. There are some talks about with one of the people that contribute a lot. So, it's not yet. We can probably start opening issues, start pitching ideas, and try to figure out a better way to doing something like this. We have a lot of things built in, like tips and examples that you can, if we start adding those to the YAML files where we have all the metadata, it start appearing in the page. It's only we need more hands and help for people. We build the tools, we need to people start adding more data to it so we can start taking more advantage of those.
Can I put a feature request in?
Huh?
Can I put a feature request in?
Yeah, and then pull request. That would work.
Even better.
Well, the events, we have events in Drupal. We still have hooks, but there's something new called events. When something happens, they trigger this other function or this other, feature on the system. So we have something like this, and you want to know which events are on the system. We have the event debug command. So this will list you all of the different, events that you have on the system. Then if you go something like, I want to see which events are execute when kernel response it happens. So you can go something like event debug and then pass the, which event you want to debug or you want to see, and then it tells you which classes or which services are implemented or executed when kernel response is happening. And you can see here which class is being executed. It also tells you which method within that class contains the code that you need to figure out or find out. And again, the events is something new. We still have hooks in Drupal, but there's something, ideally, or the goal is to start replacing all these hooks with events on Drupal. Well, again, another new subsystem is plugins. And plugins is a way of extending modules, right? So if we need to create a field formatter or field widget or a block in the system, pretty much everything. Every time that we need to extend Drupal functionality, we'll create a block. We'll create a plugin. In order to debug those or to discover all those blocks or which blocks are in the system, we have the plugin debug command. This will list you all of the plugin managers in the system. So we have plugins, but those plugins are of a plugin type. And the way to define those is creating a plugin manager. So we have, in this case, we have blocks, field formatter, widget, field types. So this is the different plugin types we can register or we can have in our application. So this command gives you a list of all those plugin types. But if you want to know which implementations of those are in the system, then you can go something like plugin debug and then let's say block. In this case, the command, instead of showing all of the plugin managers, is only showing the implementations of that specific plugin type, in this case block. So it's showing me information about all those plugin block types in the system. And even if you want to go further, you can just add the plugin ID at the end, something like plugin debug, block, and then the block ID, and this will show you metadata about the plugin you are looking for. In this case, it tells me which class is implemented, the ID, and another important information about it is the provider. So the provider shows me which module it's bringing this plugin into the system, right? So we can again use debug or list all of the plugin manager. All the plugin manager types, then all of the implementations of that specific plugin manager, and full detail of a specific plugin.
So we can learn about debugging not only with the commands provided by the Drupal Console. So one of the best solutions I found that we have in Drupal 8 is Web Profiler, which is Drupal Console is we use a Symfony component named Symfony Console, and we build on top of that the Drupal Console to include all Drupal stuff we are talking about today. Web Profiler do the same. In Symfony, they have Symfony Profiler, and this is their left hand for a Symfony developer.
Try the right one.
Or could be right. And then this guy Luca from Italy, from Wellnet, he built the same. He used Symfony Provider and then create a web profiler for Drupal stuff. We don't have any links?
No, and bar dumper is another module. I know we have Kind, we have Crumo, and different things. If you want to try something different, this is also bar dumper component from Symfony. You can use this one for expose data. You want to dump something, you're on Twig, and you want to debug what's happening on that specific array of elements coming into or being rendered on the application. Just take a look at this module, the bar dumper module. Before we just go, I want to show you something for living. There's a tool called Pico. I always like to talk about this because I think it's really cool. Live demo. You should never do a live demo, but let's do that. So remember what I told you about router debug? So router debug, the problem with those commands is all of the listings are like huge, and among us cannot try to read. So we have options. We can do something like route, debug, then pipe, grep, just passing the module name, because or
Come on out there.
yeah, module is not here. Yeah, grep for filtering the end result. So this means instead of showing me the full list, it's only showing me which data it's like filtering by the specific value that I passed. But then at some point, I find out about Peko. Peko is an interactive filtering tool. It's not part of Drupal Console. It's I think it's a Go application. You can just get in your system, which is nice about Peko. It is interactive filtering, so you use Peko. You can start typing here, You can start typing, and it also allows you to use your arrow keys to searching and all that. And then that works. Let's show me some data. But if you try a little bit further and go Peko and try to use Peko, then off, and then try to get that argument and passing back to Drupal Console, we can have something like this. This will allow me to do the same thing, moving between the result, query, the values, and finally, if I just hit enter in a specific value, what? Maybe it's disabled.
This is the form for the model, yeah.
Anything else? Again, broken site. Well, the idea, they're supposed to, it's not working. Well, that's supposed to return me that value of the route. Just type something else that is not.
No, I want to show this.
But ideally, so you can start mixing some other tools, like Peko in this case, or grep in the other case, or anything, or any other tool that you like to, and start just merging together and having a better experience while working with those tools.
So obviously we don't have enough time to talk about all the debugging commands. So the best thing I could recommend you is trying to explore all commands that ending with debug to try to learn what else you could do. Like we have debugging for queues. If you are using queues in your system and you want to analyze more of that, well, you have queue debug, or as if you want to which one? It's like if you are running in a system with pending updates, obviously you run update debug and so on and so on. So you just explore the namespace because we divided the commands in namespace, and then to try to execute what the book provide for this namespace. And this is a way to try to explore a little bit what is available.
Just pipe, grep, debug.
Yeah.
What I saw happening on the latest version of Symfony, they invert the namespace. So now they have a debug namespace and debug colon and different the other command. So container debug is now called debug container. So they have in router debug, it's called debug router, which at some point makes sense because they are grouping all the debug commands. They keep the alias with the old one, pointing to the old one. We have an excuse about doing that. It's something that, if it's something like sounds like useful, we probably implement something in the future. But yeah, for now, if you want to see all of the rest of the debug commands, just go to something like pipe, grep, debug. We have module debug, team debug.
And remember, the debugging has two levels. So like you get the full list, and then you write the ID, then you will get extra information. So it's depends on the system what else information you could do. And if you have any more ideas to try to get more information, as I say, this is a tool for developers to try to really understand what is going on, because we don't have too much information to try to tell us what is really going on in our system.
If you want to know more in detail about which options or arguments a command has, you can just run or execute command name and then -help, and you will see something like this at the top. It will tell you what it's not showing it. Yeah, you will have the different arguments and options provided by this command, so you can figure out that you can start adding more arguments to it while working. And as I mentioned before, we have a way of adding examples to, as metadata on those commands. It's a matter of start adding that data to gets populated on the CLI.
Go back to the slides. Yeah, so if you are interested in see the slides, Jesus just published the online slide after the session.
I will do it like right now. I just tweeted with the WeKnow account. I'm just tweeting it, live tweeting. You can find it here.
Yeah.
So you can find the slide here. And thank you for coming. You have any questions?
Yeah.
Yes? No? Questions? Raise your hand. Yeah, I just tweeted. So the slides. Let me see the URL. Let me grab it for you. It's a little long, probably. You can find it here. Or either.
Yeah. Let me copy in phrase.
Let's use a shortcut. It's kind of huge. You just go to Twitter, /WeKnow INC. You will see it from there.
Is it okay?
Yeah, fine. There's no question. Yeah, question?
So I use Xdebug. What is Drupal Console going to do for me when I'm in a situation when I'm working with Xdebug? Are there things that I should be doing in Drupal Console first before I go to Xdebug?
Well, when using Xdebug, because you're using, you are debugging the execution of your code. At this point, you can probably, you can use Xdebug to debug Drupal console commands while executing them. But other than help you like that, no.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is sometimes there's a better tool for the job just because I need to get to a particular bit of information first. And maybe I don't want to go and spin up an Xdebug daemon on that production server to try to figure out that issue really quickly. And so with that, is there something in Drupal console that will provide me, quicker access to some information?
Well, you have the database, table debug, you can debug the watchdog log, and Drupal console provides you with remote command execution, so you can just have Drupal console installed in your server, and you can, from your local, execute that command, just adding, add and your site alias, or, -- target equals to the site alias name, and you can start running those debug commands in your production servers.
I think it's like Xdebug is like the last resource when you are trying to debug the execution process. But usually what happens is in staging or in the machine working, but the solution doesn't work, right? And a clear example of that is the state. When you finish Drupal 8, because everything works but introduction fails, and then using the debug you could determine if there's a specific variable, like the last time the cron was executed or something, maybe something in the future, and maybe your cron is never executed. So if you compare when you're in staging is working perfectly, you need to start to dig in the database. So first evaluate all the state variables, state configuration management, and if not, then to try to determine, like I say, the block is not visible, but maybe you could see here, and then your block is there. Could be a thin stuff related with permissions, or could be something like the road wasn't created properly. So the idea is to if we trust in our code, and we know it's working, the debugging will try to tell you what the hell is different in production. Because now we have configuration, we have 3 levels. We have data, configuration, and state. And it's just a way to compare. So you have to command your government to say, okay, this is different, maybe this is what is going on. And we have commands to change those values. So in state, in configuration, obviously data, the way to change data is in the UI.
But in most Drupal console can allow you to debug like Drupal subsystems and metadata of the system itself. And Xdebug, it also helps you to debug code execution. So it's kind of different kind of tools. Yeah.
So I'm going to throw another awkward thing in your way. What if we don't turn on database logging? So we're writing all of our watchdogs to files. Does Drupal console parse those files?
That will be a nice, feature.
Yeah,
Feature.
nice pull request.
And a pull request.
Yeah, so I think it would probably be easy to script maybe, right? Because a lot of the grep op commands that we use generally to parse those files would probably be scripted, create some kind of structure out there for people to look at. I'll help you with that.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
I updated the description on this session, and it now has the link to the slides. So
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other question? If not, we will be in the hall if you have any other suggestions.
Again, we have Drupal Console stickers if you want to use. Come here.